Student of MS Chemistry from UMT Solvot. I am going to present a topic that is AATCC. AATCC stands for American Association of Textile Chemists and Colorists. AATCC is a non-profit organization serving the global textile industry and its professionals since 1921. It has thousands of individual and corporate members around the world. AATCC provides trusted textile resources, standard test methods, quality control materials, education, and professional development for a global audience. It was firstly founded by Dr. Louis A. Olney and a group of textile professionals in the United States in 1921. If we talk about the history of AATCC, AATCC has been serving the textile industry for 100 years. The need for American textile test methods became apparent during the First World War, when the blockade in the Atlantic prevented European dyes from coming to America, and the fledgling American dye manufacturers struggled with providing consistent products. So there was a need. The American Association of Textile Chemists and Colorists was founded in 1921 as a professional organization dedicated to advancing textile chemistry and dyeing technologies. Here is a brief history of AATCC. In 1921, it was firstly founded in Boston, state of USA, to standardize testing methods and improve textile quality. During the duration 1930s and 1940s, developed early test methods for color fastness, durability, and chemical resistance, aiding the textile industry during World War II. During the duration between 1950s and 1960s, expanded internationally with growing membership from textile scientists worldwide. Moving forward, during 1960s and 1970s, 1980s, AATCC focused on environmental and safety standards, addressing concerns over dyes and chemicals. Moving forward, 1990s and the present era, modernized testing procedures incorporating digital and sustainability focused standards like moisture management, antimicrobial testing introduced. If we talk about the early objectives of AATCC, it basically promote the knowledge of textile chemistry and dyeing. Its main early objective to develop standard test methods to ensure consistent dyeing and color fastness, to provide a forum for textile professionals to exchange ideas. If we talk about growth and contributions of AATCC, throughout the 20th century, AATCC became a global leader in developing textile test methods, especially for color fastness, wet processing, and quality control. It published AATCC technical manuals which are widely used for textile labs worldwide. The association also started organizing technical conferences, training workshops, and student competitions. And modern role of AATCC. Today, AATCC has members in over 60 countries. It continually updates and develops standard test methods for textiles, sustainability practices, and emerging textile technologies. If we talk about AATCC standards, what are AATCC standards? AATCC test methods, procedures, and monographs are developed by research committees through research, testing, and discussion, often taking several years of work. Simplicity, reproducibility, applicability, cost to perform, and the time to perform are all important considerations. If we talk about the categories, AATCC publishes test methods, evaluation procedures, monographs, and technical manuals. Test methods are basically the procedures to measure specific textile properties. Evaluation procedures are the guidelines for visually grading results, grayscales for color change, and the monographs and technical manuals detailed reference documents. If we talk about AATCC manuals, technical manual, The AATCC Technical Manual is the primary annual publication of the American Association of Textile Chemists and Colorists. It basically contains official AATCC test methods, evaluation procedures, standard definitions, guidelines for sampling, specimen preparation, and reporting. This manual is used worldwide by textile labs, manufacturers, and researchers to ensure standardized textile testing. If we talk about the example of AATCC manuals, then AATCC Technical Manual 2024 Volume 100 includes all updated test methods for color fastness, physical testing, and antimicrobial finishes, etc. Moving forward, if we talk about AATCC monographs, AATCC also publishes monographs, which are in-depth booklets or papers focusing on specific textile topics, technologies, or research areas. Guidelines or best practices for a particular textile issue. Examples of AATCC monographs: color fastness in textile wet processing, textile wet processing chemicals, basics of textile testing, understanding textile bleaching. Basically, these are helpful for deeper study or industry reference. If we talk about the test methods, AATCC standards, test methods. Basically, AATCC develops internationally recognized test methods and standards for textile material, focusing on color, dyeing, finishing, and chemical treatments. These standards ensure quality, performance, and safety in textiles. If we talk about the fiber analysis in textiles, then there are two standards that are used for fiber analysis. First one is AATCC TM20 and second one is AATCC TM20A. AATCC TM20, this standard is used for qualitative fiber analysis. Basically, this test method describes the physical, chemical, and microscopical techniques for identifying textile fibers used commercially in the United States. Fibers may be examined in raw fiber form or taken from yarn or fabric. AATCC TM20A, the second standard, is used for quantitative fiber analysis. This method presents individual procedures for the quantitative determination of moisture content, non-fibrous content, and fiber composition of textiles. These two standards, AATCC TM20 and AATCC TM20A, are used for qualitatively and quantitatively fiber analysis. Moving forward, standards for dyeing. Standards for dyeing color fastness tests are including for dyeing standards. These ensure that dyed fabrics retain color under different conditions. Under different conditions like washing, rubbing conditions, other environmental factors including. If we talk about commonly used AATCC color fastness test methods include, first one is AATCC TM61 color fastness to laundering. It simulates repeated home washing. The purpose of this standard is this method simulates repeated home or commercial laundering in a short time to evaluate how well a textile resists color change and staining during washing. It's widely used to predict how fabrics will perform in real life after multiple washes. AATCC TM8 color fastness to crocking, rubbing, checks how much color rubs off. The purpose of this standard is this method measures the resistance of the color in a textile to transfer onto another surface by rubbing. This process is called basically crocking. This standard checks how easily dye rubs off onto other fabrics or surfaces during wear or handling. AATCC TM15 color fastness to perspiration ensures color doesn't bleed with sweat. The purpose of this standard is that determine how well the color of textile material resists fading or staining when exposed to artificial acidic and alkaline perspiration, simulating the effect of human sweat during wear. Okay, moving forward, ATC CTM 16. It's basically a standard that uses color fastness to light, checks how color withstands sunlight. The purpose to determine the resistance of the color of textile to fading when exposed to a controlled light source. Simulating sunlight or indoor lighting to predict how well the fabric color will hold up during actual use. ATC CTM 23 color fastness to burnt gas fumes. Important for certain environmental color fastness to burnt gas fumes. The purpose is to determine the resistance of the color of textiles to fading when exposed to atmospheric gases. Specifically, burnt gas fumes like nitrogen oxides produced by gas heaters, stoves, or city pollution, which can cause color changes in sensitive dyes. The importance of these standards, if we talk about the importance, basically these tests guarantee that dyed fabric don't fade, bleed, or transfer color, protecting product quality and customer satisfaction. Secondly, staining and cross staining. The standards used for staining and cross staining are when dyeing multiple colored fabrics, it's vital to ensure dyes don't stain other parts. It means we check staining or cross staining by ATC CTM 107, ATC CTM 151, ATC CTM 107 color fastness to water. The purpose to determine how well a textile material resists color change and staining when it comes into contact with water alone without detergents or chemicals simulating conditions like rain, sweat, or damp storage. ATCC TM1 151 color fastness to hot pressing. The purpose of this standard is to determine the shrinkage or growth dimensional changes of woven and knitted fabrics after being washed and dried in a standard automatic home laundry machine simulating typical consumer laundering conditions. These help dyers adjust processes and choose dyes wisely. Okay, we have discussed standards for dyeing, and now moving forward, standards for finishing. Finishes gives textile functional properties like wrinkle resistance, stain repellency, flame resistance, or antimicrobial effects. AATC standards test how well these finishes work. AATC CTM 22 water repellency spray test measures surface wetting resistance. The purpose of this test is to determine the resistance of fabrics to surface wetting by water, that is how well a fabric repels water when sprayed under controlled conditions, indicating its water repellent finish or treatment performance. The second standard used for this purpose, for finishing purpose, AATC CTM 42 water resistance impact penetration checks how well fabric resists water penetration. The purpose of this standard is to determine the resistance of fabric to water penetration by measuring how much water passes through a fabric when it is hit a spray of water droplets under controlled impact conditions. AATC CTM 25 soil release. Basically, it assesses how easily soil is removed during washing. Purpose of this standard is to determine how well a fabric releases oil stains like vegetable oil during home laundering, assessing the effectiveness of a soil release finish or treatment applied to the fabric. AATC TM 124 appearance of fabric after repeated home laundering evaluates wrinkle resistance or durable press finishes. The purpose of this standard is to determine the shrinkage or growth dimensional changes of woven or knitted fabric after undergoing specified home laundering cycles, helping manufacturers predict how fabrics will change in size during consumer use. AATC CTM 100, if we talk about this standard is commonly used for antibacterial finishes, test effectiveness of antimicrobial treatments, Like the purpose of Aatcc is to determine the antibacterial activity of textiles by measuring the reduction in bacteria on the fabric after a specified contact time, assessing the effectiveness of antimicrobial finishes or treatment applied to the textile material. If we talk about the importance of these standards that standards are used for finishing, the importance basically they help verify that chemical finishes perform as promised. Like if we take daily life example, a raincoat truly repels water or a shirt resists wrinkles after washing. Moving forward, after testing standards, evaluation procedures. There are evaluation procedures. Aatcc also provides tools for creating test results such as grayscale for color change, grayscale for staining, and chromatic transparent scale. Grayscale for color change AP1 for measuring fading. The purpose of this evaluation procedure is to provide a standard visual tool for evaluating the degree of color change in a textile material after a test, like after laundering, after light exposure, after perspiration. It provides a visual tool for evaluating the degree of color change. It allows us to compare the original untreated fabric with the tested treated fabric to see how much the color has faded or altered. It's basically measuring test for fading, for color changing. How grayscale for staining, for cross staining. The purpose of this grayscale is to provide a standard visual tool for evaluating the degree of staining that occurs on an adjacent fabric during a color fastness test. It helps to determine how much color has transferred, cracked, bled or stained from the test fabric to another fabric during washing, rubbing or water exposure. If we talk about the third evaluation procedure, basically for cracking tests, the purpose of this to provide a standardized visual scale for evaluating the amount of color transferred from a color textile material to a white test cloth, specifically for use with cracking tests like Aatcc TM8. If we talk about generally the grayscale, what is grayscale? The grayscale is a standardized tool used in textile testing to visually assess the extent of color changes or staining on fabrics after processes like washing, rubbing, light exposure, or other treatments. There are two types of grayscales. Basically, the first type is grayscale for color change and grayscale for staining. Grayscale for color change is used to measure the degree of fading or alteration in the original color of the textile. Grayscale for staining used to measure how much color has transferred from the tested fabric to an adjacent fabric. Here is a visualization, grayscale for color change and grayscale for color staining. How it works: the grayscale consists of 5 paired gray color chips or printed cards showing a scale of contrasts between pairs of grays. Each pair represents a grade 5 to grade 1. Grade 5 shows no change, best result, no fading or staining. Grade 4 slight change. If we talk about grade 3, the noticeable change, and grade 2 considerable change, and grade 1 severe change, worst result. These are intermediate grades too, like 4 to 5, 3 to 4. These grades for more precise evaluation. Aatcc 100 test method for antimicrobial finishes on textile materials. Here I explained in detail what is Aatcc test method. The purpose of this method, basically, it's a quantitative test method to determine the efficacy of antibacterial finishes applied to textile materials. Fabrics treated with antibacterial finishes offer protection to the users from harmful bacteria, meanwhile reducing the risk of transmission of diseases. AATCC 100 test method provides the evaluation of the bacterial killing and bacteriostatic inhibition of bacteria growth. Activity of fabric material over a contact period of 24 hours against the test bacteria. In this method, basically, the microbial concentrations are standardized and bacteria are provided with nutrients throughout the incubation period. If the test fabrics don't have strong antimicrobial potential, then this will allow bacteria to flourish and grow. If we talk about the organisms that typically used in this method, AATCC 100, the organisms that used commonly are Staphylococcus aureus and Klebsiella pneumoniae, and others are also included like Escherichia coli, like Pseudomonas aeruginosa, and Salmonella enterica, MRSA, ATCC 33591, etc. Products that can be tested with AATCC 100 test, like we can test materials including wadding, thread, bedcloths, and more, like such as paper, filter media, and tissues. AATCC 100 test method. Here and the procedure of AATCC 100 test method. AATCC 100 test is performed with both the antibacterial treated test and non-treated control samples of the fabric material. In this procedure, firstly, there is a preparation of sample. The amount of inoculum used for this test is 1 ml. This ensures the easy enumeration of bacteria at zero contact time for control. After inoculation, zero contact time, a neutralizing solution is added to half of the sample to suppress the bactericidal action and to maintain the right pH balance. And remaining samples are incubated at 37 degrees Celsius for 18 hours to 24 hours. The time duration for this process is 18 hours to 24 hours. After incubation, neutralizing solution is added to the samples. Components are shaken either by using hands or a vortex to ensure proper mixing. Moving forward, then serial dilutions of neutralizing solution are made and plated to enumerate the remaining bacteria. Antibacterial activity is determined by comparing the reduction in viable count of bacteria on the treated sample with the untreated sample. This procedure tests both bacteriostatic activity, inhibition of multiplication, and bactericidal activity, killing of bacteria of the antimicrobial test agent. The hydrophobic characteristic of fabrics can affect the antimicrobial activity test results obtained by the AATCC 100 test method. The benefits of this test standard is, if we talk about the benefits, it provides precise measurement of microbial reduction for accurate antimicrobial evaluation, ensures compliance with quality and regulatory standards for antibacterial textile products. Turnaround time 3 to 4 days. If we talk about the results, then bacterial reduction on treated samples to untreated controls demonstrated antibacterial efficiency by comparing. Actually, results are evaluated by comparing the bacterial reduction on treated sample to untreated controls demonstrated antibacterial efficacy. Passing criteria of this test standard. The passing criteria for AATCC 100 typically greater than 90%. Requires a significant bacterial reduction, often greater than 90% depending on the application or industry standard. Here is a visual representation of method. In first procedure there is a sample preparation, then sterilization in autoclaving instruments, then third inoculation, then contact time during incubation 37 degrees Celsius and for 18 hours to 24 hours. Then neutralization, add 100 ml of neutralizing solution to maintain for balancing pH, and then further the serial dilutions are done, and after plating and incubation we have viable count like treated no bacterial colonies and untreated fabric high number of bacterial colonies. Here we can compare the results, and by comparing the bacterial reduction on treated samples to untreated control demonstrated antibacterial efficacy. Okay, moving forward, why Aatcc standards are important in the textile industry. Basically, it provides quality assurance, customer satisfaction, compliance, innovation, and global use. Quality assurance, brands and manufacturers use them to guarantee consistent product performance. If we talk about the customer satisfaction, then Aatcc standards in textile industry provide consumers trust. Labels like color fast or wrinkle resistant based on Aatcc test results. Compliance, many buyers, global brands require suppliers to test fabrics using Aatcc methods. Innovation help in developing advanced textiles like stain resistant, UV protective or smart textiles. Global use, while Aatcc is a US based association, its standards are widely used internationally, often together with ISO standards for global trade. If we talk about the example real world use, denim factory might use Aatcc TM61 to check how blue jeans retain color after repeated washing, ensuring they don't fade quickly, which improves customer trust in the brand. Denim factory uses this standard, that is Aatcc TM61, for retaining color. Moving forward, Aatcc standard and the textile development goals (SDGs). Basically, there is a link. Aatcc standards supports the sustainable development goals (SDGs). The Sustainable Development Goals are 17 global goals set by the United Nations to achieve a better and more sustainable future by 2030. Textile production has a big impact on the environment, and people so using Aatcc standards helps the industry align with these global goals. How Aatcc standards support specific SDGs. Here there is the SDG 3, good health and well-being. How Aatcc contributes antimicrobial standards. I have discussed earlier, antimicrobial standards Aatcc TM100 ensures fabrics resist harmful bacteria and fungi, improving hygiene for healthcare, textiles and everyday clothing. Testing chemical finishes ensures fabrics are safe for human contact, reducing skin allergies and irritations. Moving forward, SDG 6, clean water and sanitation, and how Aatcc contributes. How support this SDG. Standard for dyeing and finishing help control chemical use and wastewater by setting performance benchmarks. Encourages cleaner production techniques, minimizing water pollution from textile mills. If we talk about the SDG 12, responsible consumption and production, how Aatcc contributes. Basically, it promotes durable textiles, color fastness and performance tests means products last longer, reducing waste. Standards support eco-friendly product claims, ensuring consumers buy trustworthy, sustainably made fabrics. SDG 9, Industry Innovation and Infrastructure, and how Aatcc contributes. Aatcc contributes by developing new test methods for innovative textiles, smart textiles, functional finishes. Aatcc encourages research and technological improvement in textile manufacturing and quality control. If we talk about climate action, How Aatcc contribute? Then Aatcc encourages reduced resource use by improving fabric performance, less frequent washing due to stain resistance or antimicrobial finishes. Indirectly, Aatcc supports lowering carbon footprint by enabling more efficient manufacturing. SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, and how Aatcc standards link this SDG. Aatcc contributes, provides globally accepted standards supporting fair trade and market access, helps ensure safe workplaces by minimizing hazardous chemical residues on textiles. And if I talk about the conclusion, the summary about American Association of Textile Chemists and Colorists Organization Association, then Aatcc standards are a backbone of textile quality control worldwide. Basically, they help designers, producers, retailers, and labs that ensure that textile meets performance expectations for color, comfort, durability, and safety. Aatcc actively contributes to innovation and sustainable practices, aligning with multiple UN SDGs for health, for clean water, by providing antimicrobial testing like Aatcc TM100 and gives responsible consumption. Thank you. This is all about my presentation.